We had a very ominous message from Donald Trump the other day, where this is from Pop Culture. Donald Trump says it may be the last time Americans will see him amid enemies out there. And this was really interesting. So, President Donald Trump made some unusual statements during an address at the Whirlpool Corporation manufacturing plant in Clyde, Ohio on Thursday. While speaking to the crowd of onlookers, Trump dramatically suggested how how this may be the last time Americans will see him because he has a lot of enemies out there. He then went on to refer to these unsaid adversaries as very, very rich enemies who are not happy with him for what he's doing. Woohoo! Could this mean indictments are coming? Could this be, they're going to talk about it here in terms of what he's doing to the pharmaceutical industry, but I think it is going to be a much bigger thing. So, he says, but I figure we have one chance to do it, and no other president is going to do what I do. No other president would do a favored nations, a rebate, a buy from other nations at a much less cost. A buy from other nations at a much less cost. I'm not sure exactly. Okay. Nobody. And there are a lot of unhappy people, and they're very rich people, and they're very unhappy. So the president's comments came after he announced a plan to take on the big pharmaceutical companies who manufacture medication that is more expensive in the U.S. than anywhere else. Good for him. I shouldn't talk about my family, but I have a relative who works in the pharmaceutical industry, and she has talked about this and how other countries are able to, like socialist countries, are able to negotiate better rates in America because they're negotiating as an entire country and not just as a single insurance company. I'm not sure how. It sounds like Donald Trump has a little bit different of a spin on this in terms of he hasn't said that specifically. He talks about middlemen. So let's see. The president's comments come after he plans the big pharmaceutical who manufacture medical that's more expensive in the U.S. than anywhere else. Okay, so I got that. The executive order will require that U.S. government agencies purchase all essential medicines that we need from American sources. Okay, so okay, maybe this is. So, okay, the U.S. government agencies purchase all essential medicines. Wow, okay, so maybe the relative I was talking to was right. The executive order will also sweep away unnecessary regulatory barriers to domestic pharmaceutical production and support advanced manufacturing processes that will keep our drug prices low and allow American companies to compete on the world stage. Here's the video that they're talking about. So let's go ahead and play this.
It has to be a good product, but the middlemen. Well, the rebate that I'm doing cuts out the middlemen and it reduces costs, and the money goes back to the people purchasing the drugs. So I have a lot of enemies out there. This may be the last time you'll see me for a while. A lot of very, very rich enemies, but they are not happy with what I'm doing. But I figure we have one chance to do it, and no other president's going to do what I do. No other president would do a favored nations, a rebate, a buy from other nations at much less cost. Nobody.
Very, very interesting. It's weird that he's saying we might not see him. I mean, it is ominous. Does this mean that I don't think he's going to go into full-on hiding like Joe Biden or anything. God, how funny is that going to be? We're going to have two U.S. presidential candidates in hiding. Oh my God. What is going on in our nation right now? Things are about to go crazy. Trump continued. We'll be able to compete on the world stage, but we're going to have the lowest prices as opposed to by far the highest prices. He then shared some personal connection to the plight of those needing expensive medicines. What's so funny is that the left hates Trump, but he's doing all of these left. I mean, they're not left, but they're populist, which have some overlap with the left. All these populist policies that they're conservative populists, but they're not. But they're still populist. There is overlap with some left-wing interests in some of the stuff that Trump does. And, we can't sit here and say, like, oh, the right is completely right or the left is completely right. Usually each side gets some things right and some things wrong. I mean, the right gets most things right because it is it's more indicative of the founding principles of America. But there are certain things about, like what Bernie Sanders was talking about in 2016. He was a left-wing populist, and Trump was a right-wing populist. So just the populism in itself had some overlap. They just mostly had different policy prescriptions to solve the same problems, with the right-wing populist prescriptions being, more feasible, more doable, and more productive. So it's just insane that the left hates Trump so much when he's got some things that are closer to what their touted Bernie Sanders wanted than any other president we've ever had. They basically, for them, if Bernie was their first choice, Trump should have been the runner-up for them. But yet now they want to go with Biden over Trump, and Biden's a corporatist cronyist. He's a corporate crony Democrat. It makes no sense. I mean, it is pure tribalism, and it has turned their brains to such mush that they can't even identify when Trump is doing things that actually aligns with their agenda. He's going to do everything that aligns with their agenda? No, because he's not a leftist. But he is a populist. And that's at least a partial win for them. Biden and the corrupt cronyist Democrats are a complete loss for everybody. Let's see. So he's talking about they go to Canada to buy drugs. They buy prescription drugs. They go there because the price is so much so much lower than the United States, and yet it's made by the same company, often at the same plant. It's a disgrace, and the politicians allowed this to happen for many, many decades. Yes, and it was the Joe Biden-type politicians that allowed this to happen. Trump is in there fixing it. This isn't even a left or right issue. It's just a populist versus cronyist issue. Trump also lashed out the so-called middlemen of the big pharma industry, quipping, "I don't know who the middlemen are, but I've heard the term middlemen for a long time. They are so wealthy. They are so wealthy. Nobody has any idea who the hell they are or what they do. They make more money than the drug companies. In all fairness, at least the drug companies have to produce a product, and it has to be a good product." Lastly, he reiterated how much the rebate he's undertaking is going to cut out the middlemen and reduce costs, and the money goes back to the people purchasing the drugs. That's a huge thing that Trump is doing. I don't think the whole idea that we're not going to see him again for a while, I don't think it actually. I think this might be part of it. I don't think this is the sum of that equation, though. This is just one of the variables. And the other is, I think, the indictments are going to be coming, and they're going to be coming soon. And we have this op-ed here from the New York Times. And this was written by Ryan Goodman and Andrew Weissman. Andrew Weissman being the important one to take note of here. Because Andrew Weissman, so this is called James Comey wrote a letter in 2016. What will Barr do? 2 investigations appear to be potential fodder for pre-election political machinations. Now, Andrew Weissman was the top prosecutor for the Mueller investigation. So he is writing this article essentially to cover his ass because he knows Andrew Weissman is in the crosshairs. Just to put it blunt, Andrew Weissman is in Barr's crosshairs. So let's read what they have to say, and we're going to see how they are trying to protect their asses. So today, Wednesday, marks 90 days before the presidential election, a date in the calendar that is supposed to be of special note to the Justice Department. That's because 2 department guidelines, one a written policy that no action be influenced in any way by politics, another unwritten norm urges officials to defer publicly charging or taking any other overt investigative steps or disclosures that could affect a coming election. Wow, wow, wow. So, the first one, he is trying to steal the premise that the investigation is political in nature. Just because an investigation affects politics does not mean that it is done for political means or for political gain. Those are 2 entirely different things. So, and when we're talking about the investigations that are going on with John Durham, John Bash, and Bill Barr, these are all relating to the Mueller investigation. which Andrew Weissman was a part of. And they were trying to undo an election. And you could also argue that they knew very in short order that there was no collusion with Russia. They knew that in short order. But they carried out the investigation through the 2018 midterm elections so that they, in an attempt to take the Senate and the House from the Republicans. So Andrew Weissman is completely guilty of everything he's accusing Trump and Barr of. He's part of the swamp. He is a swamp monster. So for one, and the second one, if it's an unwritten norm, it's not a rule. It's not a rule. You're just asking for that same cronyist back scratching that we elected Trump to do away with. So no, we're not going to uphear your unwritten norms that protect these corrupt politicians, which you, Andrew Weissman, are one of. And the second, so the first one doesn't matter because it's just an unwritten code that they protect each other with. The first one, though, you have to give him that premise that this is all motivated by politics. Guess what was motivated by politics? The entire fucking Mueller investigation that you ran, Weissman. Attorney General William Barr appears poised to trample on both. Oh, you have no right to talk about Bill Barr trampling on anything after what you and Mueller and Comey and all the people who have tried to destroy Trump's presidency have done. You deserve to. This is you not wanting to be investigated yourself. And you trying to weasel your way out of getting in trouble because you committed fucking treason. At least 2 developing investigations could fodder the pre-election political machinations. That would be a byproduct, but that doesn't mean it's a motivation. And just because a politician could get in trouble during election season for a crime they committed does not mean that they should get a pass for the crime. That is not justice. That is not how the Justice Department works. Maybe it's how the department has worked, but it's not how justice and the essence of justice works. The first is an apparently sprawling investigation by John Durham. Apparently sprawling. He's acting like he doesn't know, and he doesn't know that he is one of the focal points of the investigation. You want to talk about conflict of interest? It's Andrew Weissman being an author on this article. That is a conflict of interest. The first is an apparently sprawling investigation by John Durham, the U.S. Attorney in Connecticut, that began as an examination of the origins of the FBI investigation into Russia's interference in the 2016 election. The other, led by John Bash, the U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Texas, is about the so-called unmasking of Trump associates by the Obama administration officials. Mr. Barr personally unleashed both investigations and handpicked the attorneys to run them. Why would he not? These are investigations that are trying to weed out the corrupt establishment players that have been acting corruptly. So you would need to handpick somebody that you trust is not corrupt. That's called getting justice and not continuing to allow us to be trampled on by these cronies like you, Andrew Weissman. All right. Mr. Barr personally... Okay. But Justice Department employees, in meeting their ethical and legal obligations, should be well advised not to participate in any such effort. Do you see what this guy is doing? He was the top prosecutor for Mueller. He is one of the prime targets of the investigation, and he is warning Justice Department employees to back off of him. That's what he's doing. The genesis of the department's admirable practice of creating a protective shell around the election recognizes that unelected officials at the Justice Department should not take action that can distort an election and influence the electorate. It's not admirable to allow corrupt politicians to remain corrupt and to keep from the public the knowledge that the person that they're voting for is corrupt. What is admirable is to make sure that the public knows exactly who they're voting for. You got this backwards. You are just saving your own ass and protecting your own cronies. And then you are threatening the other justice employees not to come after you. That's what this is. If someone is charged immediately before an election, for instance, that person has no time to offer a defense to counter the charges. The thing is that even if Biden is charged, this information has been out there for a long time that Biden is implicated in this. So this isn't going to be some breaking news, for one. He's already had time to counter the charges because we know what the charges would be and what the crimes would be if he's indicted. It could be, it's going to be the Ukrainian thing, his Hunter Biden and Burisma. It's going to be his pushing the Logan Act for Peter Strzok and James Comey to go after Michael Flynn with the Logan Act. Those are the types of things he's going to be charged for. We all know about that stuff. Now, maybe a lot of people don't know about it because we have a dishonest media that doesn't do their damn job and would instead actually let Andrew Weissman publish an op-ed about why why Barr shouldn't be investigating Andrew Weissman. But it's not our fault if the media sucks at their job and doesn't inform the people, because this information is out there and it's been out there. So this isn't some shocking new thing that is going to sway the election because nobody saw it coming. If charged, someone is immediately the closer the election, the greater the risk that the department is impermissibly acting based on political considerations, which is always prohibited. But these investigations have been going on for a long time. We're not going to put them on hold for you. Why? Why would they do that? Why would they put them on hold to increase, if they're investigating Joe Biden, why would they put them on hold to increase the chance that Joe Biden wins the presidency and squashes the investigation into himself? That is just a continuation of the corrupt, cronyist Washington policies. That we elected Donald Trump to put an end to that. Yet here you are, trying to use legalese to maintain the status quo against the American people. It is not mere conjecture that Mr. Barr could weaponize these investigations for political purposes. Yes, it is mere no, it isn't mere conjecture that he could, but he's using weasel words here. So it's not mere conjecture that he could. No, it's not mere conjecture that he could, but what you're saying is that he is, not that he could. That's what you're implying. Could weaponize these investigations for political purposes. In both cases, he has already run roughshod over another related long-standing department practice. It holds that the department officials should refrain from making public allegations of wrongdoing before prosecutors decide to bring charges, particularly since no charges may emanate from the investigation. I don't think he's really even done this, aside from, he's been asked questions, but he's been pretty evasive and boring with his answers. And I mean boring in like the, he hasn't been hyperbolic or saying, yeah, we're going to charge them, we're investigating. He's just talking about, he gets asked about what they're, a big high-profile case, and he's been fairly evasive in his answering of it. So, Mr. Barr and President Trump have shown no compunction in publicly discussing these investigations, suggesting wrongdoing by Democrats and deep staters. It's because there's been a lot of goddamn wrongdoing by Democrats and deep staters, which are essentially one and the same. I mean, sure, yeah, there are some Republican deep staters, but they're mostly Democrats out there. Mr. Barr promised on Fox News that there will be a public disclosure in some form in the Durham probe. That is not a violation. Just saying that there's going to be public disclosure, this is so high profile. People deserve to know if there's going to be some public disclosure, because this is a high profile investigation. It should be no surprise that Mr. Barr has followed the lead of his boss. After all, Mr. Trump urged Ukraine to announce an investigation into Mr. Biden, an action that was at the center of his impeachment. That never happened. Read the transcripts. He never urged them to announce an investigation. Didn't happen. Not long ago, Mr. Barr and Mr. Trump denounced Jim Comey's negative public commentary in the 2016 election on Hillary Clinton. Indeed, the president claimed that Mr. Comey's violation of these bedrock policies contributed to his being fired. During his nomination... Hold on. You're saying, you're really going to tell me that what got Comey fired by Trump was that he came out and said something about Hillary's emails before the election that helped Trump win? No. If I remember correctly, it had to do with Jim Comey. He kept telling Trump, "No, you're not under investigation," but then he wouldn't publicly say that, "No, you're not under investigation." He wouldn't come public with what he was telling Trump in private, and Jim Comey was just being a straight up weasel about everything. So he got him fired, or he fired him. During his nomination hearing, Mr. Barr told a Senate committee that he would adhere to these policies. These are not congruent circumstances, for one. If you are not going to indict someone, then you do not stand up there and unload negative information about the person. That probably means they're going to get indicted. You might be jumping the gun on this one. So he's making the assumption that no one's going to get indicted. I think a lot of people are going to get indicted. This is not the way the Department of Justice does business. He also completely agreed with Rod Rosenstein, another one who's in the crosshairs of this investigation. That with Rod Rosenstein, when Mr. Rosenstein wrote in a memo that Mr. Comey's transgressions during an election season were a textbook example of what federal prosecutors and agents are taught not to do. It's different when you just come out and say, right before the election, okay, yeah, we've reopened an investigation into Hillary Clinton, because he also changed the rules. It was also because Comey got a lot of blowback from saying that they wouldn't be charging her because there was no intent or something like, intent wasn't part of the law. They changed the law to give her a pass. And so he was dealing with a lot of political blowback from that. So then he came out and was trying to, Comey made a lot of mistakes. For one, he never should have given Hillary Clinton a pass to begin with, but he did. And so then he had to walk that back. This is different. This investigation has been going on for some time now. Indeed, in his nomination testimony, Mr. Barr captured the risk of an attorney general acting for political purposes. I seem to recall Attorney General Eric Holder referring to himself as Obama's wingman. I seem to recall him not charging the new Black Panthers for threatening people at election centers in Ohio. I seem to remember him not prosecuting Lois Lerner or going after whoever was involved in the IRS scandal that was targeting conservative 501c3s, the nonprofits. I seem to remember him being held in contempt of court for not cooperating in the Fast and Furious investigation. So, you can take that and shove it up your ass, because there was nobody more political in the office of the Attorney General than Eric Holder, who was actually part of the whole Michael Flynn fiasco. He was a partner of the law firm Covington and Burling that Michael Flynn originally hired that had a complete conflict of interest in representing Michael Flynn. So, members of the incumbent members of the incumbent party, he said, have their hands on the levers of the law enforcement apparatus of the country, and you do not want to use it against the opposing political party. No, you don't want to use it against the opposing political party when the opposing political party has used every single thing that they can do, every dirty trick to try to undermine your entire presidency. You still have to be able to do your job, and if it means going after them for the crimes they commit when trying to keep you from being the goddamn president, you got to do what you got to do. This is them just trying to commit crimes and get away with it. The left is always projecting. The deep state, the Democrats, they're always projecting. Nevertheless, Mr. Barr's claim... this is a whole bunch of yada yada. I don't know that there's much more that's really even pertinent here. The general gist of it is we have this Andrew Weissman guy who is a dirty deep stater, was a big part of the Mueller investigation, And he is now shitting his britches because he knows that they're coming after him, and he is trying to use the New York Times media apparatus as a way to try to scare off Department of Justice officials from continuing their investigation into him. And so, him and also all of the other people. And so I think this is another one of the reasons why Trump may have said, you're not going to see me for a while. Because I think indictments might be coming, and they might be coming real soon. And so between the pharmaceutical stuff, between all the child traffickers, between all of the all of the deep staters in the election and meddling, he has a lot of enemies, and the storm is now upon us. So, anyways, guys, that's the video. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share this video, get this information out there. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what else you'd like to hear me talk about. And also, don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Parler at Ram Thorburn. And if you are interested in contributing to the channel, I could definitely use the help. There are my Subscribestar, Patreon, and PayPal listed below in the description. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.